Greetings. Today we will dive into the fascinating world of the movie 1922. Let us plunge together into a fascinating story full of mystery, horror, and psychological turmoil. Ready to learn more about the plot and the main events of this amazing film? Then let's start our immersion into the world of 1922. 1930, former farmer Wilfred James wanders the streets of an expanding city. Human mooring already includes in 2- and 3-story buildings, but so far not able to fork out on the asphalt on shoving the gray hero's streets indifferent passers-by. Absorbed with thoughts of the great American dream, goes to a local hotel there. He rents the number in which carefully listens. What is going on outside the walls? Seems he's interested in the intimate life of his neighbors, but in practice, everything is much worse. Sat down the office by the window, the man writes on a sheet. Confessions are carried on, history entitled 1922. Voiceover by James explains what the father-in-law bequeathed to his wife. 40 hectares of fertile soil has been, and the farmer plans to add to own site to give to his son Henry in those good and God-fearing times. The main dignity of the man was his land is the best thing for pride. His son, however, has the wife's fascinated. The clothing look on life were totally different existence among cornfields, where the top art fashion designer was sewing clothes for scarecrows. Using the wife wants to sell her inheritance, all the land to local corporations, and drive off with family to live in the city. Of course, this approach is not understood. Men used to work their own hands on your site in conversation for dinner. Teenage son supporting his father, which in turn depresses the free thinkers, but her intention. And I'm as solid as ice in Antarctica lawyers, and a legal nuance entirely on her side, leaving a woman in bed. James wandered at night among the native spaces and decided to fight as hard as possible longer for his lifestyle. He offers your better half, you buy and inheritance. Let them at once in parts years. It's a goat 8. But mercantility takes top corporation offers and pays all at once, and the amount is higher than it can allow yourself to marry in full growth. There's a divorce issue, but Jameson Henry's wife wants to keep the boy, and it totally disgusts his worldview. The man begins to bear a sinister. His plan torments the thought that his wife, not only did we stop loving, hating, he makes plans and warns her not to give up. Her earth just makes it worse without a fight situation and visit to the city lawyers. Then the farmer decides to use the son in the boy's own interests, already has entered puberty, he's got all the signs. A neighbor's girl, daughter just like farmers as they are. Only more successful James has Henry on his ear. Mama wants to separate not only them but also take him with you. And that means change urban environment where rural, the boy will be an outcast, and break up with a favorite girl's simple idea implanted in the head of a teenager is the next without the mother, and life will remain simple to understand. And the usual evil speech had an effect. Boy removed from mother case comes to an outright quarrel and assault by the spouse. But then James goes on a ruse. He tells his wife that he talked to his son and convinced him to move to the big city. They say there is an opportunity. More mother will make clothes, father repair cars, and he himself will get more quality education, of course. The woman is falling for this lie. They agree to mark the family joining. The event leads to unpredictable results allowed. Have enough on the joys of a woman in a crude, cynical form, tells his son on the charms of sexual intercourse, and the need not to stick into a friend any interesting body parts. Otherwise, they both will end as dull as she, with Ivan's father along with Mademoiselle. Doubts the mental son's abilities. Once he's still. I didn't get to know the girl next door, insulted in the best and brightest of feelings. Kid dumps in the house, dad has to. Dragging a dead wife into the bedroom. After that man's son, having conferred, decide that women in their difficult farm business. Not just nothing, but it also harms the most, brings to fruition long ago, seeking a solution, beat it, that is carried out as much as possible, stupid way, like a mother vegetarian. Never mind the Scot. With the help of his son, he cuts out. Men drag the lifeless body wrapped in blanket down to old by throwing it down there like a garden and call. They start to be thorough. The first thing to wash away traces of blood wherever possible, then imitates a flight to distract eyes. Women in rural areas, big city for this, carefully going hiking set of the best. Dresses stand out, one suitcase jewelry and memorable trinkets. Then everything is thrown into the same well. Exactly in one of these visits already, at the pale sun on James's eyes caught rats living at the bottom. They all over the corpse of a wife that dead crashes into a farmer's head. Long-time spectacle coming out of your mouth. Dead rat wife will chase in his nightmares one afternoon to the house. Comes a car with a lawyer harsh and straight line. James is not willing even shake hands with the city's mawkish upstarts of the driver's feet. Brought his noise are without prejudice. Cold milk lawyer is here issue land sales deeds. But the hostess is not nearby. So do nothing can lawyer have get out of the way, but it's behind big money. So soon comes local sheriff, make sure the farmer doesn't keeps his wife against his will in his house. Time. James understands what to be carefully and cover their tracks and is resolved on thoughtful step. He turns the cow on, closing the manhole to that under the poor animal breaks down. My bones are in pain. Shoot and use your rifle to the smell of rotting meat did not spread in the district. Including from the deceased, a farmer's wife's son falls asleep. Well land when the sheriff James arrives without allows him to look at the house, and unlike a lawyer who is personal dislike, to quarrel with local and an official of the authorities. Not there too, from the hand of the policeman carefully inspects house and room, but finds no suspicious discrepancies at last. The farmer even invites him to look at well with a dead cow, but sheriff solves not the case of an extramental and refuses. Soon the time comes to harvest for it cut equipment of neighboring farmers together with working hands during a small interruptions. Neighbor's daughter, beloved son. Henry asks James, not happened or what, with the boy he became too distant and immensely gloomy man. How can a girl calm down once at night? Sarah sounds anxious. Hysteria cattle farmer with lantern gun goes. Check out what's wrong he finds in the rat barn of the same. From the pipe of the well-filled OGRES and one of the cows you bit off half me man of spades plugs a hole and returns to the house, but on his way. Dead wife in the doorway in the morning, he cements the pipe but the rats and hallucinations suddenly don't. His biggest problem. His son says that his girlfriend is pregnant, and both only 15 years on one side is not such a big problem for rural the area, but with the other girl's father highly successful farmer, against marrying a poor boy, and James himself, remembering his own experience with a recalcitrant spouse doesn't burn. Wishing to play a wedding in addition he naturally envy the potential. The father-in-law has a better home, and a wife, and the car's all shiny failed father-in-law comes to visit courtesy to inform your plan for the shame of family daughter. Go to Catholic monastery where will stay until the moment she gives birth. Baby adopted, she'll come back, this will save both the girl and the boy from the need to shoulder the burden family life, but will cost money. James is asked to contribute not even half of $300 and a third of $75. But he doesn't have a son like that. Henry strongly opposes this. He is serious about the developments and ready to take responsibility for himself and the beloved with the child. But James is fundamentally disagreeing. He's ready earth to dig to pay his father-in-law. His idea for this, he searches the whole house in finding the wife's stash, preparing for opening a sewing workshop, but cash still not enough. Then he goes straight to the bank there. They're offering him a little something to take $35 and $750 on bail real estate. Of course, but on these, the farmer will be able to fix the house and clean up the mess. James's lost sense refuses to get into debt and leaves, but on the way out he notices in the car, note the price of the second car, and ran off with his lover away from parents to live you're alone in the world. James comes under attack again. Hallucinations, he imagines his wife killed and bloodstains and dripping water from the ceiling. In it does not last and carry. Sewing dummy wife in the basement on next morning. The sheriff tells him, someone robbed a shop nearby. The description of the robber looks like an escaped convict. Henry only parts of clothing do not agree. James fundamentally refuses to suspect his son of, but it makes him mortgage a $750 house to go on vacation only in the moment. He's going on the road, he was attacked by a rat along the way, splattered with blood. That makes them a little suspicious from, we are full falls. Psychosis drinks, alcohol, lies on the couch under the hole in the ceiling, and looks like snowflakes fall on a hot house. He is tormented by nightmares haunted by the introduction. The dead wife of the husband eventually catches a slothful husband to whisper in his ear. What only dead she knows tells the fate of their son by running away with the girl he bought with the last money, used it to rob several shops. But in one of them, when they were already running away, the owner came out with a pistol. and shot in pursuit of the bullet, caught pregnant girl stuck somewhere in the fields. Henry's car carried beloved in her arms to the nearest house through snow-capped fields, hiding it in abandoned shed. Boy went looking for firewood, but by the time she got back was dead, couldn't bear it. He lay down next to her and shot himself. All this information was not reliable to the extent of James's ice cream. Amputated left hand, sheriff notifies about that. The remains of a woman were found, his wife who was mugged, get to Canada. Knowing the truth, the farmer agrees to this version, later brings the bodies of his son Henry and his girlfriends while learning James. See the boy's face eaten by rats just as his wife's face thrown down a well at the memorial. Girl's service is filling up sympathizers while saying goodbye with Henry. Comes only father and ghost wives with a retinue of rats. James is trying sell your land to your neighbor. But after the death of the daughter and the departure of the wife, there is no. The land case of the failed father-in-law notes that this year they finish losing children and wives alike. Back home, the hero notices that the last cow to live with him in the porch collapsed, and there was a wounded man. It becomes the last straw. He kills the cattle with the gun, have to sell the land on minute low cost yourself to go to big city settling for a mover on. But even there, he was persecuted, furry and tailed rodent rats. Having lived there a long time, James comes to conclude that he should have done otherwise, take my wife's offer move, or at least share property and divorce. Finished writing my confession. James turns the rat wall, chewed a hole, and now one by one, and in the middle, the ghosts of his son's wife and failed daughter-in-law are creepy pale, with mutilated by them and their gnawed faces, and 2 restraining tears. James patiently waiting for his fate, knowing he deserved it. Punishment. The screen is completely extinguished.